This is your host, Dan Stafford, with the Midwestern Geek in Cali podcast. Podcasting from 42 Tardis Way here in lovely Temecula, California, summer's winter home. This show will cover technology, science fiction, the paranormal, and all things geek. So thank you for stopping by, and please hang around and listen and enjoy the show. Hello, this is your host, Dan Stafford with the Midwestern Geek in Cali. And this is episode 69, our coverage of Anime Expo 2018 at the Los Angeles Convention Center and AniManga 2018 at the Los Angeles County Fairgrounds in Pomona, California. So, I want to talk a little bit about these two events. Um, One of the things that I found in common with both events, and this has been true of every event that I've covered, which is a grand total of three so far with this particular show, but these conventions, Comic Con Revolution, Anime Expo included, which was a huge event, and Animanga 2018 as well, all of them lacked one thing. They lacked a PR person dedicated to helping the press understand the event. Now, this is where I'm going to make a suggestion to people running conventions. You should have someone that is there when the press picks up their credentials. You should have someone there to do a brief interview with the press. Okay, what's the history of the event? What is special at the event this year? How many attendees do you have registered and expected to register? Is there anything in particular that they would suggest that the press take note of? Any plans for future growth or future plans that you may want to relay to the press? But the press shouldn't have to chase somebody down to find out that kind of stuff about the event. There should be a press affairs officer, a public information officer, a PR agent, whatever you want to call that person, or multiple persons in the case of a large convention like Anime Expo 2018, that is right there at the press credential pickup booth and in a relatively quiet area can do a brief interview, audio, video, whatever it may be, with the incoming press as they arrive at the event. I'm just saying that's it's something worth considering because it is going to help you give the press some focus on what you have that's special at your event. It's going to give you a better relationship as an event organizer with the press, and it is probably not the worst idea I've ever heard about a convention, and it would be something that's unheard of. So, the first convention to pick this up and run with it, hats off to you. You'll be the leader of the pack, as far as I can tell so far. So, something to think about for event organizers and convention organizers. No matter what the subject of the convention is, this would be a good idea. All right. The next thing that I would suggest is that if you're going to give press passes, make sure that you have some kind of badging that identifies the incoming press representatives as press. Some of the smaller conventions miss that detail. I'm not going to name names, but well, it happened. Anyway, so I want to move on. One of my themes for Anime Expo 2018 is a superhero for everyone. There are so many characters that are represented at a convention of this size. Anime Expo 2018 probably had 20,000 people in attendance easily on the day that Charles McKee and I were at the event. Charles McKee is the operator of Inland Empire Sports and News, www.iesportsnews.com, and he covers photography at these events. So the photos that you see in general, I may take a few with my smartphone, but generally Charles is there with a decent camera and zoom and taking really good pictures at the event while I'm there doing audio interviews and kind of noting details and such. And we do share article content and cross post as well. Um, we have a pretty good working relationship, and we like to cover events together because we bring different skills to the table when it comes to event coverage. Now with Anime Expo, that thing, that wonderful thing, that crazy wonderful thing, had 5 different halls in the LA Convention Center. It was ginormous, and we walked our behinds off and covered the entire ground. Obviously we couldn't drill on that in on every little thing that was there. There's just no way. I mean, we were there for, in probably 4, 5, 6 hours or so on one day. And that's enough to get a good overview of the event, but there's no way it's enough to cover the entire event in detail. And it's just everywhere you look, there was cosplay. Um, Totally. The biggest hassle I saw with Anime Expo was internal traffic management. In other words, managing crowd flow inside the event. It was really kind of difficult to get around there and a lot of work. But we did, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. I have several interviews, about 6, uh, with our artists and vendors, etc., at the event. I did not find special service providers at either of the anime slash manga events that I covered, either Anime Expo or AniManga. Neither one seemed to have the kind of service providers that were providing services to cosplayers and event goers like what was at Comic Con Revolution. So far, that was unique to Comic Con Revolution as far as I've seen. However, at C2E2 in Chicago, which I've gone to about 2 or 3 years, I did not really pay attention to that because I wasn't there really to cover the event. I was there to enjoy the event, just as an event goer. And the same thing with Chicago TARDIS and multiple years of going to the Chicago Green Festival. I went there as an event goer to enjoy the event. I wasn't looking for the unique and unusual that I'm looking for with this show when I go to an event. When I go to an event now, I want something that's not just your run of the mill merchandise vendor or food vendor. Um, it's hard to interview individual cosplayers. You can a little bit, but it almost feels like invading people's personal space. They're there to enjoy the event and show off. Sure, pictures are one thing, but to stop them from making their way around the event to do an interview, that's a little more difficult because they're not really, I don't think, going to be used to that. And a lot of them are fairly young. So not everyone, there are some cosplayers of all ages, and they do a very thorough and fantastic job. All ages do, but a lot of cosplayers are very young, and it feels a little bit awkward to go and interview someone who's really just a private person there, portraying a character, doing cosplay and showing off their cosplay skills, but may not be so ready to be put on the spot in that way. So I have a little bit of a comfort issue with approaching too many people there. Now, maybe um, if it happens to strike up a conversation and I tell them what I do, and they say, well, I'd be cool with doing an interview, in that case, I would, because I would love to really get some cosplayers on the record and talking in detail about what it's like to make these costumes, to wear these costumes. because some of them are really extensive, and these conventions go on for several days. So, and not to mention which I'm not as familiar with anime and manga characters as I would be with, say, Marvel or DC. So that's something to think about in the future for me to think about as far as how to cover that and get those kind of interviews without overwhelming the people that are there doing cosplay. I don't want it to be uncomfortable. I want it to be fun. That's what this show is really about, is having fun. And now I don't want to take it where it's not. Okay, that said, Anime Expo, you're going to find from the interviews that it was pretty interesting, pretty good. Uh, didn't have some of the unusual flair that I found at Comic Con Revolution, but it was by far and away one of the biggest events I've ever attended as far as a convention. So, onward, I want to talk a little bit about AniManga 2018, but I am going to pin that to the tail end of the show and wrap up with that because they're very different events, and I want to let you get the interviews first and then come back and hear what I have to say about Animanga 2018. And there are some good and interesting points there, and a couple of critiques too. So take it to the end and check out, that part of it because I'll give you a little bit more observational detail than just the interviews. There's only a couple of interviews from Animanga 2018 and six brief interviews from Anime Expo 2018. So that being said, I will let you dive into the interviews and come back to you at the tail end. Thank you. This is your host, Dan Stafford, with the Midwestern Geek in Cali, and we'll be back in a little bit after the interviews.
Okay, so we're recording. My name is Dan Stafford. I'm the host of Midwestern Geek in Cali podcast. My friend with the camera is Charles McKee from Inland Empire Sports and News. And we're here at Anime Expo Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Convention Center. And of course, coming to a convention like this, I could not walk out without a graphic t-shirt. And the gentleman that I am interviewing here helped me pick out a t-shirt that kind of suits a theme that I like. So could you give me your name?
My name is Jonathan Min, but all my friends call me John.
All right. And John, tell me about the t-shirt you kind of directed to me to. Tell me about the character and the background.
The anime is popular. It came out about maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, and people liked it because it was a story of a man who just suddenly wanted to quit his job, and then he wanted to become a superhero. So what he did was he wanted to train his body. So he did 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and ran like a 10 mile every single day for the last 2 years. It grew him bald, and then somehow he got a special power, and then these aliens started to appear out of nowhere, and he wanted to become a hero and make public, and he just punches them one punch, and they just blast him away. And then, well, he still hasn't been known because people still think that he was dangerous or something like that. But there were other superhero society at the time, but nobody knew about his power.
Very cool. And what's his name again, the character?
His name is Satama.
Okay. And English translation? Is there any, or is it just Satama?
It's Satama.
Okay. And as you introduced me to him, One Punch.
One Punch Man.
One Punch Man. Very good.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan.
No
Thank
problem.
you very much.
No problem.
Okay, this is your host, Dan Stafford, with the Midwestern Geek in Cali podcast / YouTube channel. I'm here at Anime Expo Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Convention Center, and I stumbled on this neat little booth back here where they do hand-done watercolor and spray paint anime. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to the watercolor artist. If you could give me your name, how people can find you, and what actually you do.
All right. Well, my name is Lynn Shafstall. I go by my alias Lyns, L-Y-N-S, on a lot of social media. I am a watercolor artist who originally went to school for animation, didn't use the degree, and decided to put my skills to something more practical and going to conventions. And I'm mostly active on my Instagram and Etsy, which goes by the same acronym Lyns, L-Y-N-S. And yeah.
Okay. So how have you been doing here at the convention so far? Is it turning out to be pretty good? I mean, it's like, what, the first, second day?
Yeah, even though it's the second day, the convention has already been great. Even the first day was great. You know, you have a lot of different people who are really interested in seeing art, the original artists, the spray painters, everybody. So, and even though me and my partner, Kat, over here, who are separate artists, we're both doing really great. And the camaraderie over the different artists and exhibitors is also really, really great.
Yeah, well, it's always a really good vibe in these places because, you know, we're kind of in here because we're all of a like mind, right?
Yes,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you're doing watercolor. Do you do any other mixed media, or are you pretty strictly watercolor?
You know, I'm right now for selling at the table, I keep it strictly watercolor. I do digital and animation on the side. I have a webcomic called This is Steggy, or Steggy short, and it's going to be a little animated, sort of like, you know, really cute drawings that you can share around, and it picks up your day. It's supposed to make you smile when you're done with it. So that would be the only thing that I have that's digital.
Okay. And one more time, the website?
The website, I would go with the Instagram, which it's at Lyns, L-Y-N-S _art. And that's where you can talk to me if you got questions about art, watercolor, you just want to chat. You know, I'm always up to say hi.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're live here. This is Dan Stafford, your host with Midwestern Geek in Cali podcast and YouTube channel. I'm here at the Anime Expo at Los Angeles Convention Center 2018, and I've found this little booth with some really cool art. I mean, they're doing anime here with spray paint, and this stuff is vivid, let me tell you. It's really cool. Now, I've seen people do space art with spray paint on the street for years and years and years, but anime, this is another story. So I have here the artist herself, and if you could, tell me your name, how to find you, and a little bit about what you're doing.
Okay, well, my name is Kat, and both myself and my husband do the art. You can find us on Facebook at AK Art. Pretty easy to find, and both of us have the Instagram link there too. It's just a bit more complicated. We actually started doing art just maybe a few months ago. So when we decided to do anime and spray paint mainly, that's what I do. He does the digital art. So as it was mentioned, mostly people do galaxies, and I just decided I want to do more. So maybe 4 months later, I think I do quite well.
4 months?
4 months.
You said 4 months?
4 months.
Oh my God. You guys have got to go over to iesportsnews.com and check out these pictures. I'm going to have Charles take a couple extra because 4 months.
4 months.
You're blowing my mind right now.
I'm not joking. 4 months.
Very nice. Very nice.
Started right around like end of February, March.
Yeah. So you're enjoying the expo?
I'm enjoying being here, I guess, because there's not a lot I can go to.
All right. Awesome.
But hey, there's no lines for us.
Nice. All right. Thank you.
Thank
Kat,
you.
was it?
Yep, Kat.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, this is Dan Stafford, the host of Midwestern Geek and Cali podcast and YouTube channel here at Los Angeles Anime Expo, Los Angeles Convention Center 2018. And I am here at Nigel Sade Fine Art exhibition, and I have with me...
Nigel Sade, yeah.
Nigel.
Yep.
All right. I first noticed the Doctor Who here that has every Doctor.
Right. Now, to be fair, just to be very clear, we have we have two artists in the booth. This is Sarah Wilkinson. This is my partner. She and I have our studio is called Studio Decide. So.
Okay. And describe, since this is audio only, give me a little description of the art.
Well, what she's done with this one is it's got all of the Doctors, starting from the first Doctor all the way through the timeline, including the War Doctor, and then through Jodie Whittaker, as sort of portraits that are laid out in this kind of fun-esque sort of timeline around a clock which has the crack utilized from
the
season
crack in the universe.
The crack in the universe as the hands of the clock, stuff like that, with the TARDIS in the background, and it's the piece is called "I Am the Doctor," and it's this idea of the suggestion that the Doctor is not just, the Doctor is all of these people in an amalgamation, just like you and I are an amalgamation of all of the things that we are throughout our lives and stuff like that. Right. There was a period in time when I had a lock of seagull hair. I don't like that time, but it's definitely part of my life. It's that kind of a thing. So. And the Doctor is an extreme version of that.
Right. And I can see here you've got Doctor Who covered in the booth. You've got Star Trek covered in the booth.
Uh-huh.
You've got Star Wars covered in the booth. A little bit of Marvel I'm seeing here and there as well.
Right.
So these are prints. What is the original media that the artwork is done on before the prints come out?
Usually they're pencil works. And then, so for these pieces, like we have several other pieces that we do that are like paintings, oil paintings and that kind of thing. The more, like, I guess, fan-related stuff that we do is done with a pencil or sumi ink, and then it's collaged together utilizing like photography and oil textures and stuff like that in order to kind of make a collage of the thing. So we take the pencil drawing and we explode it out and then attach a texture to all of the layers, layer them back together, and then that's sort of so that's why they're more like an Art Deco design in that kind of way.
Nice.
So
very, very, very nice.
The basic kind of artistic mean behind it is that the Art Deco is supposed to be the visions of the future. Today, though, the Empire State Building was the Art Deco because that was the building of the future. All buildings are going to be like the Empire State Buildings.
Right.
But today,
vertical lines.
Yeah. But today, we cannot look at our future without seeing it through the guise of our sci-fi. So the artistic mode of the pieces is to suggest that the new Art Deco is forever going to be colored by those things that, when I say what's the future going to be like, you immediately start going through all the things that you've seen in science fiction and stuff like that. So.
Excellent. And just a side note, this work is both very vivid and very unique, the Art Deco touch, and you'll be able to spot some photographs a little bit of it on Inland Empire Sports and News or iesportsnews.com.
Awesome.
Okay.
Fantastic.
All right,
Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure.
All right, and this is Dan Stafford, your host of Midwestern Geek and Cali podcast and YouTube channel. I'm here at Anime Expo Los Angeles 2018, and we're in the cosplay repair area, and I'm talking to one of the repair wizards. Is that the official title?
Yeah, sure. Repair wizards, gurus, cool people.
Cool.
Whatever we go by.
So, you guys like fix everyone's costumes? What kind of materials do you have? I see staples, duct tape, thread and needles.
Yeah, so we have a lot of general repair supplies. We don't have a ton of specialized stuff, but people can come in because the heat is killer and melts a lot of costumes, melts the hot glue, so they can come in and do some quick repairs. If they know what they're doing, we let them take the lead, but if they need some help, like this young lady, or advice if they're not particularly well versed in the cosplay area, we can give them advice or offer our services to help repair their costumes to make sure they look awesome for the event.
All right, perfect. And this is a pretty large area. I've got to say, it's like a sea of anime here, which is really cool. All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, my name is Dan Stafford. I'm the host of Midwestern Geek in Cali podcast and YouTube channel. And we're here at Anime Expo Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Convention Center. And this is Team USA for the World Cosplay.
World Cosplay Summit. It's an international costume competition. There's over 37 countries involved right now. Basically, the exhibit that we have here is showcasing costumes from every year that the USA has participated.
Oh, awesome. So this goes back many years.
Yeah, it goes back all the way to 2005. World Cosplay Summit, I think, started in 2003, and then the first team from US went in 2005.
Excellent. Where is it usually held?
The actual competition is held in Nagoya in Japan in August. The preliminary to select the USA team is held here at Anime Expo during the Masquerade tomorrow night.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So they're going to be picking the cosplayers
for
here for next year.
Yep.
Awesome.
So I'm actually the representative from last year. So I got to go with one other person to Japan to compete.
So did you win last year?
We didn't win. We didn't place anywhere at the actual competition, but I mean we were also selected through a competition here at Anime Expo.
I mean, if you're going to get the best from here, at least I got a shot. This place is full of awesome costumes.
It really is.
It really is. It kind of blows my mind. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, this is the point where the Anime Expo interviews switch over to AniManga 2018. It's a different convention held at a later date, August 4th.
And we're recording now. This is Dan Stafford, the host of Midwestern Geek in Cali videocast, and I am here at AniManga 2018. And your name is?
My name's Kay.
Kay. All right, and I'm looking at a bunch of cars here. Can you tell me a little bit about them?
Sure. They're all independently owned by different people in the SoCal area. And, it's just their love of anime and pop culture, and it's another platform for them to express their interests. So maybe some people put stickers on their laptop or, anything like that, but, they use their cars like another canvas.
Nice. So I'm noticing signatures on some of the cars. Are those artists?
Some of the signatures, like the one on this car right here, it's she didn't actually sign the car. It's actually a vinyl cutout of the signature, but it's this character right here. She's a singer, like a virtual digital singer, and that's her voice actress.
Excellent. Okay. Anything else you want to say in closing?
Well, yeah, Itasha is for anyone. Itasha literally means painful car, and it kind of stems from this kind of gaudy expression of, you have your favorite character and you want to put it on everything because you love that character and you love that culture so much. So I mean, anyone can get into it. It's just another form of expressing your love for something.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
This is Dan Stafford. I'm the host of Midwestern Geek in Cali, and I'm here at AniManga 2018 at Pomona Fairgrounds. And these two folk are cosplayers here at the event, and they're appearing in banner picture for my appearance and coverage here at the event. So, what are your names?
My name's Louie.
And I'm Jocelyn.
Jocelyn? And you two have some pretty extensive costumes here. I mean, the swords are about as tall as either of you are, right? And it looks like some pretty extensive work on the cosplay here. How long did it take either of you to do these costumes?
As for mine, it's been a year is when I first made the cosplay, and since then I've been adding and improving bits and pieces throughout the year.
Okay, and what's the character?
It's Guts from Berserk.
Okay, and you?
For me, it took me about a year as well to complete it, and I've just been doing upgrades since then, and I'm doing a female version of Guts from Berserk.
Perfect, awesome. Thank you both.
Hello, this is your host Dan Stafford back with Midwestern Geek in Cali, and I hope you enjoyed the interviews, and I think they were some pretty good ones. And let's talk about AniManga 2018 a little bit. The first thing I noticed when I got to the Los Angeles County Fairgrounds in Pomona was that the buildings were done in an Art Deco style. This place is very cool retro. Um, the buildings are probably date to the 1920s or 1930s, and they're very well kept up. The facilities, like restrooms and such, are updated. Everything's very well maintained, which is interesting and cool because an entire fairgrounds that's Art Deco, that is a rare bird. And there are probably some architectural foundations that would kind of love to do some stuff about that. So, just saying, it's worth seeing. I want to note that the fairgrounds had a couple of things I would have been interested in seeing. There was a slide there. There was kind of a quasi zoo there. There was a railway museum there, a small one. There also was flower gardens. There was a carousel. There were multiple fountains, which was common in Art Deco styles. And the place is really, really beautiful. There's a nightclub there called the Avalon, a nightclub restaurant, something really, really cool, classy place, like a grand, grand dame from yesteryear. Just like movie glamorous, kind of in back in its heyday. I mean, if a fairgrounds could be compared to Casablanca, I'd give it to Pomona, to the LA County Fairgrounds. Just a really, really cool place in all. Now, another thing that I noted about the Animanga 2018, Charles actually made this observation, and I would tend to agree that there was a much higher ratio of cosplayers to non-cosplayers at the event. I'm kind of thinking that they were more diehard cosplayers at AniManga 2018. The reason I say that is because of the size of the event. This event was one hall at the LA County Fairgrounds, one hall, and that hall probably was about one third full. It's a much, much smaller event than Anime Expo 2018, probably on the order of a tenth of the size. Um, there were lots of artists, lots of merchandise vendors, 5 food trucks versus the probably almost a dozen or maybe even 20 that were at Anime Expo in downtown LA at the convention center. Um, let's see, probably about 8 food vendors inside. They had a couple of folks doing panel discussion of some sort up on the stage. I wasn't really clear on what that was. They had a very interesting car display, as you heard in one of the interviews. And um, again, I want to reiterate, no one for PR. It was impossible to find anyone to really dig into the details of the event, what its history is, how long it's been going on, and what are their future plans for the event. I did try to get with the management. I requested an interview with one of the organizers. I was told that they were a little too busy. The person themselves told me that to do it on the spot, but that they would give me a call in about half an hour to an hour on my cell phone. Never got a call. Just didn't hear from anyone. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that they were just too busy to talk to someone who's going to be covering their event and publishing content regarding the quality and scale of the event. But it is what it is. I'm a small podcast at this point, or a small video cast, whatever I'm turning out to be content wise. I don't have the reach of somebody like NBC or um, you know some of the other large media companies, but I have people that follow me, and who knows? Yeah, it might not have been the worst thing for them to at least come and talk to me for 5 minutes, which is all I really wanted. So I'll get off that soapbox now. The one thing that I noticed there that was also present at Anime Expo was retro gaming. Okay, in Anime Expo, there were probably 30 or 40 classic arcade video games, the stand-up arcade games that I loved way back in the day. Probably dated to the 80s, some of them, and in fact, I know some of them did. And it was really fun to see and well intended, but they still had 10 to a dozen of those classic arcade games here at Animanga 2018, which was a cool thing. But where they really went cool with retro gaming was they had several tables set up with classic video games like old NES classic consoles with the old school CRT televisions. And what the point is to have these retro TVs there to play the games on is that they have the height to width ratio that the games required. They're not widescreens like current monitors and TVs. They're the old school TVs that these games were originally played on. So you're getting the experience as if you would have played the game back in the day. And that's what I thought was very cool about it. Those they took the time on this particular thing to make the experience as if you were playing it when those games were new. And the same is true with some PC based ones as well. So it was very, very interesting for me from that perspective to see that they took it to that level. I'm thinking I'm going to kind of wrap it up right around there. It's getting to be a long episode, and there's a lot to be said. It was a fun time, a lot of good exercise, a lot of good people. Uh, I would really like to see AniManga kind of do step up a little bit more next year, but they did a lot, and with the resources that they had, I just think they could have been done a better job of representing themselves. Um, as far as the people that were there, a lot of heart, a lot of effort going into those costumes. Cosplayers, I admire you guys for the amazing skills you have at crafting. It just blows my mind some of the stuff that people are able to do with their costumes. So hats off to you. And on that note, you can find coverage at Inland Empire Sports and News. Plenty of photos. www.iesportsnews.com. And of course, our show, our blog for the show is at www.midwesterngeekandcali.com. And you also can find us on Twitter at MidwestGeekCali. And also, we have a discussion group on Facebook, Midwestern Geek in Cali. And our YouTube channel is Midwestern Geek in Cali, which you're probably listening to this episode there now. Any rate, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day, evening, morning, whatever it may be. And we'll look forward to entertaining you in future episodes. And may there never be a rogue wave in your coffee mug. And happy Vulcan fingers to you from the Agent of 42. Take care. Visuals created using Plane 9 Visualizer. www.plane9.com. That's PLANE 9 the number.com. Thank you for listening to a Midwestern Geek in Cali podcast. You can find our site at www.midwesterngeekincali.com. You can find us on Twitter at MidwestGeekCali, and you can find us on Facebook in discussion groups. Thank you again, and happy Vulcan fingers to you from the Agent of 42.